What's up, Mark Bell's Proud Project fam? This episode is brought to you by Piedmontese beef. Now, Andrew, you usually like dieting on like high carb, lower fat, and you're doing a lot of Piedmontese, so I need you to tell me about it.
Yeah, dude. So the one steak that I put it above every other steak on the planet is, of course, Piedmontese flat iron steak. Now, if you are familiar with that type of cut, you might be thinking like, no, Andrew's tripping. Like that thing is full of fat. There's no way that you're dieting on that type of steak, especially one that good. But let me tell you the nutritional facts from a flat iron steak from Piedmontese. All right, you ready? 23 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 2 grams of carbs.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yep. I just had to double check because even though I know this, I had to double check. 23 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 2 carbs.
What the hell?
Tell me what diet that doesn't fit.
I don't know.
Dude, so when you're looking at macros and stuff, especially if you're in more of a bodybuilding type of diet, there's absolutely nothing on the planet that can fit better for you than a Piedmontese flat iron steak. On top of it being like the most amazing nutritional, macro-friendly steak, it tastes incredible. I gave one to my father-in-law. He almost had a heart attack, like legit. Like he couldn't understand how it tasted so good. The heart attack was from the excitement, not from like eating meat. That's not what this is all about. But what I'm trying to say is that it's the best steak on the planet. I mean, that's just one of the many steaks, but to me, that's like my number one steak from Piedmontese beef. For more information, please head over to Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project for 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping.
I don't want to be disrespectful to Stephanie.
Yeah.
I love Stephanie.
She's amazing. And I have to like, I personally like just keep forgetting like, oh wait, like her parents will check out the podcast once in a while, or you know, we'll have one of our cousins, you know, when we used to see everybody, be like, oh, like that guest was really interesting, and I'm like, oh god,
yeah,
damn, I hope you didn't listen to like any other ones, but like, thank you for the support, I appreciate it. But
that's so funny.
Actually, I think this might even be better if Nsima reads it. And maybe, you know, give it a little bit of your, Barry White, sexual,
sexual.
Yeah,
what are you having me read?
So this is
sensual.
I'm going to wait.
This is from my YouTube channel. Somebody made a comment. So.
Oh my God. I know this comment. I have an idea.
Which one? The police?
Yeah.
Okay. You want me to read it in a sensual voice?
Yeah, we want that Nsima voice. You know which one.
All right. Please, for a funny prank, could you maybe post a pic of one of your poops? Ha. Just thought it would be funny if we could look at it. Ha. And also if you could post a follow-up picture of you looking all guilty and shy. That would be nice. Ha ha. You don't have to put you don't have to, but I just thought I can't be the only one who would appreciate a picture of the Carnivore King's poo.
Amazing, right? So the reason why I had Nsima read that is because he's the one who wrote that.
Like, how did you not stumble? But all right, I get.
Yeah.
It just,
Carnivore King, I think you're pushing the envelope a little too far there.
Carnivore King's poo. Oh God, he was just ha ha every single line, ha ha. Like
what was odd? What was odd is there was like a good amount of weird comments on that particular video for some reason. I don't know what's going on with everybody, but maybe it's mating season or something. I don't know.
Well, probably the carnivores making everyone's test levels go up a little bit, and so people are getting into that mode.
Oh Lord,
yeah.
People are feeling excited, I guess. Looking shy.
Yeah, that's a little fetishy.
That's weird.
I love when it's specific, you know, like that makes it even funnier.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
That's great.
Yo, real quick, have you guys heard, we have a great topic today too, but I don't know if you guys heard about this. You guys have watched Black Mirror, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay. So apparently, I don't know which company's doing this, but they're trying to, and they're getting to a point where they want to take videos and audio of someone you love. okay? So that when they die, they're going to make an AI version of that individual, or like a computer recorded version that you can have discussion with and talk to. And they're literally doing this right now. And you remember that episode of Black Mirror?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where that,
It's
like,
fucking wild.
yeah, he was like a skin bag, and yeah.
So they,
Skin
I wish I could remember who they did it with, but they did, maybe it was a hologram. But
Oh, yeah.
there's a guy that you can interview. You can interview this guy. You can ask him any questions, and he's artificial intelligence.
Wow.
You can ask him like, "Hey, how was your week?" You know, and he has enough artificial intelligence to where he can talk to you that way, and he can talk to you about how he grew up and stuff. It's somebody like kind of famous. I wish I could remember more on it, but it was something I saw on like 60 Minutes or something like that. And wild. That is crazy.
I remember the Tupac hologram concert. You remember that a few years back, where
Yep.
they just had the hologram Tupac on stage, and people were digging it, right?
We need a hologram of our boy Kobe, right? It was a year ago. You know, I think with everything that happened, it seemed like 3 or 4 years have gone by, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or is that just me?
No, it seems like it was. It seems like it's been a minute.
Yeah, it seemed like it was kind of a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were doing the like the year in review show, like just going back checking out the episodes and like, oh yeah, that's when we started, podcasting from home, and then like, oh, that I remember it just tons of stuff did happen. Like we were all locked down, but so much happened. And then thinking back to last year, exactly a year ago, like dude, that did seem forever ago. It's like crazy.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant's death, and we were down in Los Angeles, and I don't know, someone messaged me, and I read it, and I remember reading it out loud. Like I read it because I was surprised. I read it out loud. I didn't mean to like deliver a message to you guys that way, but I was like stunned. I didn't know what to do. And then all of us were sad and stunned and depressed and all that. But it's weird to think that that was only a year ago. And then also we were kind of in the middle of, we were talking with Sean Baker that weekend. We were talking with Paul Saladino. We had Phil DeRue on the podcast. We had a bunch of people on the podcast because it was coinciding with the Fit Expo. And I don't think we even went to the Fit Expo, but we went to that Korean barbecue or Brazilian. What was it?
Brazilian steakhouse.
Brazilian steakhouse.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That place was good. We ate a lot of meat.
Yeah.
I got sickly full. Oh yeah, we saw Elliot Hulse that night too, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walking in with a big old beard and shit.
Looks like a shaman, man.
Yeah.
Doing a strongman competition.
And then that was the first time Nsima and I had a Legendary Foods tasty pastry.
Oh yeah.
That was the first one of 10,000.
Those are so good.
And I think a keto brick maybe even too, right? Because I brought some keto bricks
Yeah,
with
we
me.
actually lived off of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have the keto brick guy scheduled to be on the show. He made a new one. He made a chocolate peanut butter cup, and that one's really good. I mean, he's nailed it on a couple of. I mean, they're all pretty good, but he nailed it on a couple of them. But I can't wait to have him on the show because it's kind of a funny thing. It has 100 grams of fat, and it has 1,000 calories. It's like, who would think to make 1,000 calorie bar?
I'm very curious. This is like, what just came across his mind one day when he's like, I just need to make a fat bar, like just of pure fat, high calorie. What market?
Yeah,
like, right. But like people love it, and it's really good.
Yeah, he's doing well with it. He's selling it. You know, it's crazy to think that Kobe died right before all the coronavirus stuff hit. It's just odd. It's like he never saw any of that, right? And when you think back to that time, you're like, Kobe died, and then the whole world like went to hell. It seemed like everything just kind of went from there. And I don't think anything has anything to do with anything, but it was just really interesting set of circumstances. And 2020 was really weird, and then 2021 started out kind of weird too.
Yeah. New president. The Capitol raid was in January, right? Was it early January?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. 2021's been pretty eventful too.
Yeah. I saw some memes where they're like, oh, I'm glad 2021 is starting out differently. And there's like somebody jumping through the window or whatever.
Yeah,
Man.
I've been hearing that like 2021 it's not actually 2021. It's just the DLC pack for 2020. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it's like 2020B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the meme of 2021 as in WON?
Oh shit.
Oh man.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Sadly.
Our we're all fans of Kobe Bryant. We're all fans of sports. We're all fans of just people kind of kicking ass in sports. And Nsima had a chance to watch the Tiger documentary. I saw it. Andrew, did you get a chance to watch it?
No, I have not. No.
It's a great documentary. I think you'll really dig it. Unlike the Jordan thing, the Jordan, what was that called?
Last Dance.
Oh, Last Dance, right?
The Last Dance, yeah.
Yeah. Unlike the Michael Jordan documentary, this doesn't have Tiger Woods in it, and it doesn't have his wife, his ex-wife's not in it. Like a lot of his dad has passed, right? But his mother's not in it, so there's not really a lot of people that are really that close to him like that. It's kind of all like formers, It's people that are like kind of former friends of his. But anyway, what we're going to talk about here today is, do you need to be hungry to be great at something? Because it seems like most of the best people ever are really hungry. And not only are they hungry, but they have like a chip on their shoulder from something that happened. I know Vince McMahon was abused heavily as a child. And I think he made a statement of saying, like, if you don't, he got beat so bad that he said, if you don't kill me, then I fucking won, then fuck you. And I'm going to make a success of myself. Like, what a crazy, like, what a wild upbringing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to discuss today. Like, do you need like crazy shit to happen like that? Do you need to be told that you're never going to be anything? Like, do you need that to spawn a hunger inside of you that otherwise maybe wouldn't be there? Because, like, do you just really want to be good at archery, like randomly? Or do you want to be really good at archery because you tried it and you sucked, you were finished dead last, and someone told you, you know what, you're shit at this, and then you tried it again, and it turns out you don't even have that great a vision, but you still figure, people figure stuff out. There's people that are blind that do all kinds of amazing things. There's people that are deaf that do all kinds of amazing things. There's people that are born with one leg that do all, like, what I would like to kind of concentrate on, do we need that to be hungry? And also, let's talk about that hunger piece. Do you need to be hungry to be great?
I think what you were talking about in terms of having a chip on your shoulder, or do you have to be hungry? I think one person who did that, but probably to a to a kind of maybe insane level, was Jordan. Because when you do watch The Last Dance, the constant theme is that Jordan would continuously create enemies in his mind, even if he really didn't have enemies. Like, there's this one game that they were talking about where he said, oh yeah, he said this to me or whatever. And the guy's like, what? Like, I never said shit to you. Like, I didn't say anything to you. But in Jordan's head, he's like, yeah, he said that to me. Or like, there's this guy that people were like, oh, he's the next Jordan. And Jordan was like, oh, really? You think he's the next Jordan? I'll fucking show you who Jordan is. And then he just like wrecked this dude for no reason. You know what I mean? Like
it's just a total annihilation too. It's not like he went out and scored 30 points like he normally does. It's like he went out and scored like 60 points. Like,
and then shut the other guy down.
Like, I'll destroy you
defensively, and there's been stuff. So when he was going against the Detroit Pistons, they talked about how he wasn't strong enough. And then what did he do? He hired a trainer. He got with the trainer. He gained like 10, 15 pounds. And that was never an issue ever again for the rest of his career. You never saw incidences where Jordan was like unprepared or looked tired, or you never saw any of that. Where sometimes with some of these other athletes, we have seen some of that. With Mike Tyson fighting Buster Douglas, he was out of shape. He was clearly out of shape. He got tired. Buster Douglas fought a great fight, and he ended up losing the fight. But even Mike Tyson, you could say, look, man, that guy might have been the hungriest person ever. Like, he was hungry to be great. He wanted to be great. Here's some of my thoughts on some of this. So, I think that ultimately what you really have to have more so than anything else is a skill set. You need to have a skill set. So sometimes you just you have a skill set that is, let's say you're in 5th grade. Sometimes you have a skill set that is of varsity level, of varsity high school level, and you're in 5th grade. We see that sometimes. Sometimes on a baseball field, there'll be a kid that gets up and, you know, he's got a freaking mustache and he's 12, you know, and when he grabs the bat, when he stands there, you're like, okay, like why is this kid even on this? This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. You know, like this kid belongs somewhere else. He doesn't fit in because he's exponentially that much greater than everybody. So that kid, from a genetic standpoint, was born with some gifts. He has enough size. He's got enough weight. And then there's something else burning inside of him, whether it's a drive from a parent that is, you know, kind of, I guess, maybe forcing him to do that, or he's trying to get recognition from dad or from mom or whomever. But I think the main thing is that you acquire a skill set. But how do you get a skill set, though? Because you would have to be hungry to get a skill set. You'd have to really you'd have to really love what you do. And sometimes you have to love what you do to the detriment of other things. And that, to me, is the big separator between. Now, there's so many different ways of doing this. When I think of all the great athletes over the years, Brett Favre was having a lot of fun. Brett Favre would shake hands with people on the sidelines, and he'd like put her in the old vice grip, and he would like mess around and pretend like he had this super strong hand. He was just like goofing around. He'd smack people on the ass all the time, do all kinds of silly things on the sidelines. He would just sprint up and down the sidelines and like yell, and you could tell that he was having a hell of a time on a football field. And he won a lot of championships. He's a Hall of Fame football player.
Yeah.
Then there's the other side of it with someone like a Dan Marino. Dan Marino had all the passing records. He did all kinds of crazy stuff himself. He never did win a Super Bowl, but he was an amazing athlete. He was an amazing quarterback, and the way that he handled it, his version of how he could be great, was to be like super pissed off all the time. And so it didn't always mesh great with the other players. It was like I think he might have been a difficult guy to go to bat for, but he could throw a football equally as good as Brett Favre. He had a skill set that actually might be unmatched. I mean, no one had a faster. He was famous for having this fast release. He can get rid of a football super fast, so he never got sacked. And even though he couldn't move, he could probably run a 40 in like an hour. But the point here is, like, we need to have a skill set. So how do we acquire this skill set, and do you have to have a lot of hunger to get that?
I think that when it comes to the skill set portion of things, I think of athletes like first off LeBron and Roger Federer. And the reason why I'm mentioning those two athletes is, like, when you look at Jordan, right? And obviously you see the face that he puts in front of people, but you saw the documentary and you saw how he was. You're like, damn, that's an athlete that put everything in, but sacrificed a lot on maybe like the mental side, or like he had a lot of vices that maybe allowed him to be able to do so well. Like, just really loved to gamble, etc. When you look at like LeBron, you only see what like he chooses to show the media, but he seems to have a healthy family life. His kids seem to be doing well. His wife seems to be doing well.
He's an alien, this guy, man.
He's 37. Exactly. He's 37 years old, still arguably with a lot of people saying he's the best player in the NBA at 37. It's insane. And you look at Roger Federer also, I think he has 4 kids, 1 wife. He's still like, he's number 5 ranked, but he has multiple records in tennis. A lot of people would say he's the best tennis player of all time. You've never seen any drama, at least publicly, in his career, right? But he's great. He's amazing. It seems that these guys have been able to hone in on their skill sets, hone in on the things that they're great at. Yeah, concentrating on it without maybe detriment into their life, their personality, their family, unless something comes out in the future. Like, it does seem to be that is possible, right? So I do think it's very possible, but obviously you have to be interested in that thing. You can't just be good on it. It has to be actually something you're interested in. And yeah, you gotta be able to, I hate this idea, but kind of balance it in the best way possible with your life, even though, like, LeBron's probably spending more time on the court than he is all the time with his kids, for sure, right? But at the same time, like, he has a great wife there that's helping out and, makes things manageable for his family.
there's probably like Andrew and I had a conversation about being like a role player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the reason why a lot of people choose in life to be a quote unquote role player, because the reach to try to be great at something can sometimes be really dangerous. And you could sometimes end up in like, it's great to be Michael Jordan. Like it must have been amazing in so many different ways. But things that are things that I guess, so Michael Jordan can do things that nobody else could do.
Absolutely.
But what about the simple stuff? Like the simple stuff, like I guess it's not simple necessarily. But what about like his marriage, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's things like that. I'm not trying to poke holes and I'm not trying to place judgment on anything because nobody's perfect. Mm-hmm. So I don't really even care about that. But what my point is that when you are striving for something so much, you might be missing out on something else.
Yeah.
When you're trying to be the strongest athlete in the world, which we've seen a lot with powerlifting, your health is probably going to be compromised. Mm-hmm. Being lean and being in good shape is great. But when you start leaning towards that bodybuilding, trying to be the best bodybuilder, trying to be the leanest bodybuilder, well, now you're 2% body fat. A lot of things are going to shut down in your system. You're going towards something so hard and so fast that you left other stuff out. We've seen a lot of bodybuilders really not care much about their relationships, where they have somebody, but they just are like, they're not into it because all they really care about. And we've seen it with athletes too. They're just so into what they're doing. It's not even like they're cheating or doing other things. They just literally are so submerged in what they're doing that they don't give a shit about other things. And so I think this is a reason why a lot of people choose to be a role player. Like, I don't want to make all those decisions.
Yeah.
In our business here at Slingshot, you know, I had an invention, I created a product and created products around that and created a business. But as soon as people started asking questions, I'm like, I'm not doing this. Yeah. Like, I don't want any part of this. So my wife does that. She stepped in and she plays the boss, you know, or however you want to say it. I think that a lot of times people think they would love to be in charge. But man, like being in charge is really, really tough. I mean, imagine if someone just gave you, let's just say someone gave you $100,000 and they said, I want you to spread this $100,000 to local businesses that are in Sacramento. Well, that would be awesome, right? But let's say it's like public and right now
why didn't you give it to me?
Yeah. Now we have like some issues, right?
Yeah.
Why'd you give $1,000 to Makuni? Like they're always kicking ass, right? Or these different places, right? And then it just becomes something that's really, really hard to do. So being in charge is a really tough task. And I think a lot of times people are like, you know, I'm going to, when the chips are down, I'm going to pass the ball to Nsima. Like I'm pretty good at making shots, but I've seen Nsima frequently miss that trash can. No.
I actually haven't seen him make one.
Oh, here we go.
Let's see.
Oh, he's got the knees. Oh, he's good at hitting the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I was aiming for the fridge, you know.
But anyway, you get my point.
Far
like there's
left.
some people that are kind of starving to have the ball at the end of the game. There's other people who are like, you know, I practice a lot. And these might even be people who've been frustrated with the coach in the past. And they might be people that are like, I work my ass off. And now there's 5 seconds left. And now the chips are down and the game's on the line. They're like, I should probably pass the ball. if I'm being honest over here.
You know, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so like that conversation's this was a question I posed to Mark, and there was multiple answers for it. But what it came down to was us talking about Robert Ory.
Is it 8 rings or 9? 7 rings?
Yeah.
Okay,
and what it came down to was like, he's, a lot of people aren't going to consider him the greatest of all time. It's like, no, it's Michael Jordan. It's like Michael Jordan had 6 rings and Robert Ory had 7. And I mean, he was Big Shot Bob. He destroyed the Kings in my life for a little bit, but yeah, exactly what Mark was saying. Like, do you want all these responsibilities? Do you want to be, the guy that gets interviewed at the end of the game when you lose? And then as in regards to like the money thing you were talking about, Mark, like yeah, like I don't have like the infrastructure to spread out, $100,000 within the community or whatever. Like I just don't have those connections. Like I'm not prepared for that. So like it would be really, really freaking hard. I'm sure somebody's like, oh, I'll take a shot at it. Like, but I don't have $100,000 because I'm not ready for $100,000. When I am, that's when I will acquire it.
Right. And even if somebody is to give it to you and say, hey, distribute this out to these different companies, even if you were like, okay, well, I'm going to give it to the companies that are doing the worst. And somebody's like, well, why would you reward that? And then you need like some sort of, you need a lot of reasons for it. But good leaders, they're able to somehow ignore a lot of that. They're able to say, you know what? No, this is what I believe in. This is what I'm going towards. This is what I'm going to do. I'm doing things this way. I'm going to, rather than take the 3-point shot, I'm going to drive to the lane and hit the layup because I know we can get the ball back and maybe score one more time. Like just unconventional thought, unconventional things. That's what leaders and that's what people that are great are going to do.
And when you look at the family portion of things, like let me use you as an example. You have this what you're trying to do, but you also have someone next to you, Andy, who can take responsibilities on the other end of things and who's also has this shared purpose and shared goal with you. Know what you're going towards. And I feel like when you look at guys that are bodybuilding or powerlifters, etc., you were talking about like failed relationships, but maybe, you as the athlete need to be very honest with the person you're with. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what it's going to take. During these seasons, when I'm deep in competition, this is what's going to happen. Are you going to be able to ride with me? Just like you and the people here at Slingshot, right?
That's the exact way to handle it.
Right?
Like I really enjoy doing this. This is part of my life. I want to make sure you're okay with this, and this is what I'm going to do. And when I'm training for bodybuilding or when I'm going towards that jiu-jitsu tournament, like I just might be like a little bit less available, and I might be a little bit of an asshole. Like there's really no excuse to be like disrespectful or to be, but you can kind of preface it by saying, I'm just going to be a little bit different for a period of time. And if I'm different afterwards, fucking come talk to me. Make sure that I can kind of get back on track.
Absolutely. So I think that but one thing I was thinking about with all this too is the severity of certain sports, right? I would, oddly enough, when I was thinking about this when you were talking, powerlifting, right? Major strain on the body over a long period of time. Bodybuilding, major strain on the body, especially when you're prepping, changes your mood, changes your hormones. It can be annoying for whoever you're with. Fighting, blows to the head, blows to the body, whether you're a boxer or whatever. Football.
Somebody's got to watch you doing that shit. Yeah.
And somebody's got to watch you doing that, right? Football, again, getting hit, especially depending on your position, right? Over time. But like when you look at guys that like play basketball, tennis, soccer, baseball, these great athletes, I feel that it is probably easier to, it's not easy to be great, but it's probably less strain to be great in those sports because of it's not as strenuous on the body over time. Because I was thinking the whole reason like this whole came up was because I watched the Conor and Dustin fight, and you guys have seen how nice Conor has been.
Oh yeah.
He's been having these meetings with Tony Robbins, and I think the last fight he won versus Cowboy Cerrone, Tony Robbins came out and gave him a hug, and he was talking about all the stuff they've been doing together. And even before this fight, Conor was like being super cool and super nice with Dustin. Post-fight interview, the interviewer asks him about his daughter, and he starts to break down and cry a little bit. It's like, I'm happy for you, Conor, but maybe he doesn't have that edge anymore. It's like, do you need that? Do you need that aggressive streak? Do you need that chip on your shoulder to to be great in that sense?
Yeah, he's not throwing a dolly through the side of a bus or whatever, right? Like,
it's not toxic anymore.
Yeah, he's losing some of that anger. And I would say that, like, having money and having more convenience and stuff, it can definitely make you complacent. But we still see some savages. We still see some people out there, thinking of someone like Hugh Jackman, deadlifting like 465 pounds. He stays in amazing shape. He's not only a famous actor, in movies, but he also does plays. He can sing. I mean, he's like, it's unbelievable, right? He can do all these different things. Really, really talented person, right? Yeah. So things seem to be pretty good for him. Like I have not heard, and again, we don't know what happens behind closed doors with some people, but I would say, going back to LeBron James for a minute, when you're skilled and you have gratitude towards the gifts that you have. He clearly has some gifts, right? I mean, he's 6'8", he's 250. In terms of like the body weight thing, like he has kept himself at that weight. He's kept himself in shape. So there's definitely a lot of work that goes into it. And everybody knows how hard LeBron James works. But even just being born 6'8" is a real roll of the dice, Yeah. Does he have other people in his family that are 6'8"? He probably has. I don't even know if he has got brothers or whatever, but they're not him, right? They're not able to do what he's able to do. But if you can, the less that you have to do to be great, the easier it would be to maybe not have to be so angry, or the less likely that you'd probably be to be destructive because of the time consumption that it would take. So if you're pretty good at football and you play your junior and sophomore year and you're pretty good. Maybe let's say this particular athlete is like good enough to get looked at by some colleges. Let's say this athlete starts to lift and they're stronger and their goal is to go Division I. They're trying everything they can. Kind of turns out they're just not quite good enough. They run a 4.9 instead of like a 4.7, and they're just they weren't really not just born, but they don't have the ability at the moment to be as fast as they need to be. Let's say that they take steroids, and let's say that they want to be a little stronger, a little bigger. Like, I'm going to play a different position. Well, this person's already kind of reaching, and let's say they're 250, and now they're starting to think, well, maybe I should play a different position, and for that position, I'd have to be bigger and so we're already talking about spending a lot of time and energy on you just trying to figure out how to get a Division I scholarship, right? If you're to like kind of barely get a Division I scholarship, where does that leave you when you go to the school? Like, are you going to be able to play? It's gonna be very hard, right? Whereas there might be some other kids on the team that have some real natural talents. They're fucking phenomenal at football. They kind of just get the game, and with a lot less training, with a lot less intervention, with no steroids, they're able to catch the ball, they're able to run fast, they're able to do all these things. They just have a lot less stuff to like reach for. Yeah. So you can kind of already see that one person has to get so obsessed with it that it might really pull on some other parts of their life. And where the other person, and it, it can go either way, because sometimes the guy that is really gifted, sometimes he doesn't have enough, people will say like, oh man, I wish the guy had a little more fight in him, or had a little grit. Yeah. A little bit more grit to him. Things like that. We hear that a lot. And so it's a really interesting thing, because at some point you got to be balanced out. Otherwise you're going to be pulling so hard in one direction that some other parts of your life are going to probably fall apart. You might not have a personal life. You might not have relationships and so forth. What you were saying there really makes me think. It's like, if let's say you play football, and you really want to be a quarterback, right? But you are really a good kicker. Like, you're an amazing kicker and a subpar quarterback, right? Are you okay with falling into your role, even like falling into being the kicker because that is what you're good at? Like I was thinking of when I was focusing on powerlifting, I had really great skill when it came to the deadlift, and my squat was heading in that direction too. Like, that was progressing, but the bench, which is something that just over time, slow, right? And I was just like, how deep do I want to get into these waters, right? I can be good, or I can maybe focus on something else that I'm a bit more interested in. When I started training jiu-jitsu, I was still focused on powerlifting, but I just found that I was so much more interested in that sport, right? And it's not like I was a natural at anything, but I just was so much more interested athletically. And when I started like concentrating on it, it's like,
there was a lot of things that I figured out. I was like, wow, I could actually probably get really good at this. So I shifted into something that maybe fit me better. Right. So I never want to doubt anything that anyone can do, because I don't really know. I don't really know what someone can do. But it would be really fucking hard for you to win an IPF championship, right? Like, it would just be real. Like, these people, these guys, they're so strong. And let's just say that you kind of started to go for it. Well, you could already just see like how much of your life will be flipped upside down. You're gonna have to be like 290 or something, and there's a lot of things. It'll even pull against your own health, you know, and then you're like, well, do I want to? With jiu-jitsu, it seems like you're lined up pretty well for it. Yeah. To at least be in contention, to at least be on the mat for some world championships. Like, who knows what happens and who you face and whatever, and who knows where your career ends up. But I mean, it's a 100% lock that you'll eventually be a black belt. You've gone through the belts pretty quickly. You're progressing really well. It seems like you always get better. It seems like you want to get better. Yeah. You're healthy. You take care. I mean, so the amount of, and you also work. You have a puppy. You got a girlfriend. You have other things going on, right? So you're able to manage multiple things at a time. And I don't see you like, you don't seem like real stressed about it. No,
I don't see you like frantic and like hustling around. I don't see any. It looks like these things are all there for you at some point, and you work very hard at it, so you deserve it. But I don't see you having a chip on your shoulder. I don't see you being like angry about anything. For you personally, have you used that before? Is there something from your past or something? Is there something inside of you like, I gotta fucking prove myself? Or is it like, I just want to continue to get better at this and just kind of see where it goes?
I think when I was like maybe a teenager playing soccer.
I think all teenagers use that, right?
Yeah. When I was a teenager playing soccer, I worked with a lot of anger. But as I got older, bodybuilding, there was never any type of anger that went into my training. When it came to powerlifting, I would attempt that just because I saw a lot of other people doing it. But I very quickly found out that like, I don't work well off of that. I work worse when I'm working off of like having a fake chip or, trying to amp myself up and be angry. And I just realized that I just got to do something because I like it a lot. And like when I was getting stronger with powerlifting, it was just like, I just liked it a lot, right? I didn't work off of any anger or anything. With jiu-jitsu, it's the same thing. I freaking like it. I like watching it. I like doing it. And it's a real passionate interest of mine, which allows me to go back onto the mat every single day and train happy, right? But that's that thing where I wonder like, you look at Connor, he's all happy. He gets KO'd, right? Like, can I get there without, like, when I meet that opponent who's hungry and he's just like mad, like, I wonder. We'll see.
Like, who's hungrier at that point?
Yeah. But, real quick, I want to keep going down this path, but when you guys were watching that fight, I know Phil Daru's our man. Phil Daru's our guy.
Shout out to Phil. Congratulations, and congratulations, Dustin. That was an amazing fight.
I will say though, and this is coming from the eyes of somebody who's not like in MMA or whatever, when I was watching Connor fight, bro, when he came out initially, you guys both saw the fight, right? Yeah. When he came out in round 1, I was like, Connor has this fight. That's what went through my head, because he
looked great. He looked like he was in great shape. He looked fast.
And I don't know if you guys realize this man's face. He had like, there was nothing on his face. He was just dodging. He was doing some weird ninja shit with Dustin's feet. Like, it really looked like he was in control and that he had it. It looked like he was in actual control. And it felt like when he lost, it was kind of like he just got too cocky. Because when you rewatch that portion where he was like losing, like when he lost, he was dodging some shit, but he didn't have his hands up. He was just, and then he got hit and clipped, and boom, he got knocked out. I felt like he got cocky, but I feel like he had it before that.
It's almost like when you think you're going to beat someone in a race and you let up, and then you're like, oh shit, like that guy beat me. Like, fuck.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a combination of all these things or if one is more significant than the other, but the leg kicks definitely slowed him down a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
There was very obvious ring rust, in my opinion. Like, just he wasn't as snappy as he was before.
Yeah.
and Dustin ate some of his left hands.
Oh yeah.
And he like kind of shook it off. Like I was like, oh shit, like here we go. And I was like, oh, way to go, Dustin. Like let's go. So I don't know again if that's because he couldn't put a lot of weight on that front foot.
Yeah.
I don't know if because it's been a hot minute since he fought, or again because Dustin was just a savage this time around.
Dustin destroyed that leg, bro.
So yeah. So with all that, I was just like, damn, dude, like Dustin, he fought a great fight.
He did.
Against a great fighter, and he just was the better man that night.
It's got to be a tough thing to try to beat somebody that you beat 6 years ago.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking about my own powerlifting career. Like, you know, if after I've done some of my biggest lifts, and then 6 years later to meet up with somebody again who I beat in competition previously, like it would be really like 6 years is a long time. And the conversation we're having right now about, you know, having this like hunger, I think hunger and anger are probably very different things. The hunger is like, I just want to be fucking better at this thing, like almost no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, the anger is an attribute that like just isn't great, I don't think, because you know you clench your fist and you just throw this bomb of a punch and the guy just takes you down, chokes you out, and it's like, well, that didn't really like you can be as angry as you want, but that didn't really help. But I know how we're using it in the context here where we're saying like that you've got this chip on your shoulder and that you're just dying to be better, and you kind of almost don't care how it's done. But I would agree 100% with like Conor McGregor can come back and still kick some ass, and he can figure things out. But yeah, he'll have to probably put some of the stuff aside, kind of like we saw in like a movie like Rocky, where, you know, Rocky 4, Ivan Drago's got all the latest technology, and Rocky's out there lifting logs and kind of doing things the hard way. In Rocky 3, we saw it from Mr. T. Mr. T, like actually, that's a great example. Mr. T was really, really hungry the way that Rocky was in the beginning in Rocky 1, and Rocky made it, and he was champ, and he was on top. He had a wife, he had a house, he had kids, he had all these things that people are kind of striving for, and maybe he didn't have any more like fighting him anymore, you know. And so when he went up against Mr. T, like, you know, that was it, because the other guy wanted it more.
Let me ask you this, actually. You know, through your powerlifting career, I'm not sure exactly when you like stopped competing, but do you feel that getting things, or not like getting things, but, you know, building a successful business, etc., do you think that dampened at all your need to do something in terms of powerlifting to achieve certain numbers, even though you still achieved crazy numbers? Did that dampen that for you? Because like when I think about Conor, like this man has hundreds of millions of dollars. At this point, it's like, why the fuck do I want to get hit in a ring? Like I got hundreds of millions of dollars.
He wants to hang around with his kid, right? Like, he doesn't want to forget, you know, his kid's name. I
have this amazing like tequila, or it's not tequila, it's something Proper 12 or whatever, and it's making hella money too. Why am I getting hit? Right? How about you?
Yeah, definitely. I think you know, once you start asking yourself the question on why, you start to end up in a really like not a great place. Why am I going to all these jiu-jitsu practices? Why am I lifting all these weights? Like why? What's the point anymore? What, you know? And even like for me, my legs got bigger by using less weight too. So it's like, you know what I mean? There was no real reward to try to really load the weight up.
Yeah.
You know, when I squatted 1,000 pounds and did a lot of those things, my legs, they didn't really have much. They didn't look like they had much muscle on them. I mean, they were thick, but they weren't. You think they would be a great attribute, you know, lifting those kinds of weights. And so, when you start asking yourself why, or start to kind of think something's kind of silly or kind of corny, you're in a tough spot. I mean, imagine being an actor and thinking like the role that you're playing is corny, and then you can never like really express yourself the way that you want to, because you think that you look foolish, you know. For me with lifting, you know, as I started, you know, getting away from powerlifting and retiring from powerlifting, yeah, that question popped up in my head, like why are you doing this? You know, it doesn't really, you still get up off the couch really slow and like still move, like shit just hurts. The knee hurts, back hurts. And I just kind of even forgot what it was like to have my body be pain-free. I kind of lost sight and lost track of the fact that training in general should make you feel better mentally and physically.
Yeah.
But when you start to get in too deep into anything, you do so much of it, that it loses its sensation. A lot of stuff, probably because I'm a pervert, a lot of stuff reminds me of sex. Like sex is amazing, but you can go at it for so long that like you start to lose sensations. You become numb to it at a certain point, right? Where you're like, oh, this is still cool, but but like my dick's about to fall off. Right? So once you start to kind of question, I heard Steve Young kind of talk about this when he was retiring or when he knew it was time for him to retire from football. In football, you get into these like these huddles before the game, and you have all this hype. We're going to kill him. We're going to do, and someone says something badass and everyone gets all fired up. Steve Young, like at one point, just kind of was able to zoom out a little bit. And while somebody was talking, he was like, this shit is so weird. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? Like, he's like, he was just thinking to himself, it doesn't have anything to do whether we're hyped up or not. It's like, are we good enough to beat the other team? Do we have the skill to beat the other team? And he said right then and there, because he just realized I'm not all bought into the whole thing. If you guys aren't like, yeah, we all agree, we can kick these guys. We can kick these guys in the nuts. We can beat the hell out of these guys. There's going to be some like, if you're not all bought into the whole thing, there might be some doubt, when you actually start to play the game. But if you have a little bit of like faith in what you're doing and you're like, you know what, I don't really know, why Mark headbutted the shit out of Andrew before we hit the field. Yeah. It's probably not helpful in any way, but they seem to be hyped up about it. And here we go. That's just what we do, or that's how we do it. Yeah. And so for me with lifting, as soon as I kind of was like, why am I doing it this way? Like there's other ways of doing this, right?
Andrew, what's your favorite flavor of the Element electrolytes? Which one?
I am 100% all team, all orange salt.
Team naranja.
Very good.
Yes. I speak español.
Yeah. What about you, man?
Raspberry, dude. I love the raspberry flavor of these packets. Whenever I message them, it's like, send me more raspberry.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, you guys see I have 8 electrolytes in my hand.
8.
Element is doing an awesome little giveaway, not a giveaway, but they are literally giving you a sample pack of electrolytes, and all you need to pay is
$5 shipping.
It's that easy. Pay $5 for shipping and you can try all of the different flavors of Element. They have their citrus, their orange, their spicy flavors, which are just really all pretty cool.
Oh, dude, before I forget, I know we're doing something right now, but if you put the lemon habanero on an orange,
oh God,
dude, it is so good. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh God, I'm going to try that when I get home.
It's so good. But yeah, I'm a fan of that one and just the regular plain, not like unflavored one.
Yeah.
I use that to salt everything.
And their chocolate's really good in coffee.
Oh my God, dude, all their flavors are really good.
It's kind of hard, yeah.
It would be really hard to try all of them unless they were giving it away for free right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, guys, seriously. All right, we do hype up, Element electrolytes because we love them so much. But now is your opportunity to experience everything we've been talking about. All you have to do is go to drinklmnt.com/powerproject and check out the. It's a recharge pack and it's a sample pack. It's absolutely free. All you have to do is just pay the $5 shipping charge, and it's absolutely yours. That's
a no-brainer.
I changed the camera right to you on perfect timing. But yes, that's all you have to do. drinklmnt.com/powerproject. Claim your free recharge pack, and all you have to do is pay the $5 shipping and you get to try every single one of their flavors. Go do that right now. I bet it was still like a huge like motivational thing for you though, right? Like you come out with a new product and it's like, well shit, I better like live up to this, right? So I would imagine that helped too as well, right?
Oh, it helps a ton with your confidence.
Yeah.
When you like when you know that you have a good ability to make money, it's like that feels really, really, because money is so valued.
Yep.
When the White House got infiltrated or whatever you want to say on earlier this year, and they said like fighting doesn't solve anything. This is disgusting. I was like, fighting solves everything. Like the very land that they're talking about isn't even ours. We fought for it. We fought somebody else for it. And before that, somebody else fought over it and took it from somebody else. This state right here was taken over, by America against Mexico, right?
Yeah.
And things like that. I mean, you go into our history, and there's a lot of fighting, and there's a lot of things that have a lot to do with money. And money can make you feel empowered in some ways, but it can also make you feel super comfortable. Just imagine so Conor McGregor, he doesn't like cook any of his own meals and stuff, right?
Probably not.
Well, we had George Lockhart on the show, and George cooks for him. I don't know if he still does that, but I don't know. You're getting ready for a bodybuilding show, and you're cooking your own meals, and you're waking up at 4 and being prepped every day, and you do that. You do that your whole career, and then you start to get towards the end of your career. You're like, I got plenty of money. I'm just going to hire somebody to cook for me.
Yeah,
you might be just missing a little chunk. You might be missing a little edge to your daily disciplines, right? You might be missing a little piece of the puzzle right there.
That reminds me of Israel Adesanya. He was talking about how when he won his belt the first time, when he went back to, I think it's New Zealand where he's from, where he trains. It's New Zealand or something, but his training partner started going a little bit easier on him. He was like, he cuddled everybody up. He's like, okay, guys, real talk. I have this belt. This does not mean you lighten up on me in training. No matter what happens, we go as hard as we were when it was day one. If you do this, you're going to fuck me up. You're going to make me think I'm better than I actually am. Y'all got to go as hard as we were from day one. Right. So it's like when you make these certain achievements, it's like whatever it is that you're doing, it's that complacency aspect. You're like, you're comfortable. Everyone around you is treating you like you're the king, and everyone's going easy on you. They're not telling you the things that they told you before because maybe now you're more intimidating and they're scared or whatever. They're not being real with you. You need people that are still going to be real with you when you start achieving these things.
You start hiring yes men. You're like, I just want to live in a culture where I'm not criticized. And if you're not criticized, then you can't error correct, and you're going to have a very hard time getting better. If everyone's just blown away and like super pumped about everything you do. And you could even think you're funny just because people are laughing at your shit, even though what you're saying is not even funny. Like there's a lot of misinterpretation that can happen, and you can kind of have some fake confidence about a lot of things.
Social media is great at that.
Social media is the king of that.
Yeah. I remember Rogan talking about he was because his upbringing was a little rough. Like I think his stepdad or something was like, so he took up martial arts because he's like, I never want to get my ass, whatever it was. I can't remember. But basically, he was just like, I never want to be, not adequate to fight out of any situation. And so he talks about like, my kids they're obviously well taken care of, and but you kind of want them to struggle a little bit. And I think about that too. But it was just awesome timing. If you're a parent and you're not subscribed to Ryan Holiday's Daily Dad, I highly recommend it. It's such a huge help. But you hear like about how people who had a terrible like upbringing are able to do so much. And I'm just going to read the end of his email, because it's just really cool. He says, and so when we look at the greatness of Churchill, who was fueled by his abusive, painful childhood, and the evil of Hitler or Stalin, who were formed by the poverty and adversity of their times, we should remember the quip Kissinger about Nixon. What could that man have been had someone loved him as a child? It's freaking huge, right? Like when I'm thinking about my son, it's like, maybe I'll drop him off back at our old pad and see if he can figure out his way out of South Sacramento and make it back to, nice neighborhood. But maybe we don't really necessarily need that struggle. So if somebody's listening, they're like, man, like shit, my parents were really good to me and I can't quite get that hunger. I can't quite, get that motivation to kick ass. It's like, well, no, it's like, you're not kind of ahead of the game, and you actually have more opportunities than everybody else, or not everybody else, but a lot of people, and you don't necessarily need, that terrible upbringing to be a savage. So I don't know, that really stuck out to me. And that email actually came in like 2 days ago. So it was just perfect timing.
I would agree with that in some ways. Like I think there's, and I'm not really talking about that next level of success, like an Elon Musk or LeBron James or some of these people. But if you look at wealthy families, like they have a lot of successful people in the family, because success can breed success. Like they see examples of it. They see examples of it every day. And maybe that kid that grows up with his dad being a doctor is a kid that can maybe have an opportunity to dream about being an astronaut. You know what I mean? Like, because if you grew up under different circumstances, again, your time consumption around your struggles might be so severe that you can't think well enough to think outside the box of all the possibilities that might be available to you. So instead, maybe you just play a sport and try to use that, or whatever it might be. But I think that a lot of times we'll see other successful people. You don't always need to, I don't think you need to seek out struggle. Like it's going to come your way no matter what. And the other thing is too, like, so with someone like LeBron James, where did his struggle come from? Well, his struggle came from leveling up. I'm going to be the next Kobe, or I'm going to be the next, whatever his thing was. Like, I'm going to be the best high school basketball player anyone's ever seen.
Yeah.
Then he jumps right into the NBA, and then he's trying to figure out how to win championships with a team that sucks, and you continue to level up. And so the chip or the hunger is still going to be there as long as you're challenging yourself, as long as you're seeking a new challenge. I think a lot of times people are kind of like hoping and praying that things go real smooth. But what you should be working towards is developing such a strong skill set that you can overcome anything. Doesn't matter what's thrown your way. Like, what about sometimes in some of these fights when they're like, oh yeah, you're going to fight Bones Jones, and then he has to pull out of the fight for whatever reason, and boom, somebody else is thrown your way. A lot of guys say, I'm not doing it. Cowboy Cerrone is a great example. He'll take on any fight. He's like, yep, I'm in. He feels that he has a good enough skill set, strong enough skill set to handle any sort of adversity, anything that comes his way.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with that skill set portion. And I also, I agree with what Andrew was saying, and the fact that, like, no, I think, I don't think that, you have to have had like a rough childhood or whatever to head in that good direction, because I think more so, your son's going to have a great mother and father. He's going to have great examples how to be with other people. You had a great mother and father. You were a great example. You show compassion to people. You're great with other people because you had such great examples, right? So it's much better to have that than to be trying to fight against a something negative that's happened to you. Not like that's, a lot of people have had that. Not like that's a problem, but that is harder. Right. It is harder to fight against things that you've seen and not replicate those things, so
look at someone like George St. Pierre, like if he did have some weird, crazy things when he was young, I'm not aware of him having like a bad upbringing, but he did seem like he had his own internal struggles. He seemed like he was always scared of stuff as a kid. Seemed like he had some anxiety. He learned how to wrestle and so forth. And then he becomes, one of the greatest fighters of all time.
Yeah.
So there's that way of handling things. And there's also the Mike Tyson way of handling things, where he grew up and he's an absolute beast. And like, when he's punching somebody, he's talking about, driving their nose right through their brain and like all these, wild, crazy things. He was an amazing boxer, right? I mean, he's unbelievable. He's one of the all-time greats. But there's other people that are all-time greats who don't have that same background, don't have that same experience. Greatness doesn't come from it doesn't come from having a shitty background. It comes from somewhere along the line you decided that you're going to lean towards this thing that you're probably already pretty good at, that you like and or love. It helps if you love it. And you're going to continue over a period of time to get better at it. And you're going to get better and better to the point where maybe you end up, one day better than everybody else. Where I think the hunger side of things really comes in is just not ever giving up, just not quitting. I heard Les Brown has this thing that he said basically about, when he was young, they thought he was like retarded and they thought all these different things about him. And, most of you guys have, I hope that you've heard Les Brown speak before, because he's just amazing. Anybody who ever wants to become a public speaker should listen to Les Brown and pay attention to the way the man talks.
It's great.
Fucking just absolutely ridiculous. I hope at some point we get an opportunity to talk with him. He's an idol of mine. But Les Brown has a story about how he goes in to get a job as a disc jockey at a radio station. And he goes in there and he meets the boss, and they have conversation, and he says, what he would like to do, but he doesn't have previous experience. And so the owner says, hey, that's great. Come back some other day. We're not really looking for anybody. We're kind of hoping that we'd find somebody that, had a background in this. Les Brown comes back the next day and says, hey, sir, how's it going? And he's like, I saw you yesterday. What's going on? Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm Les Brown. He goes, yeah, I know I remember. Yeah, you were here yesterday. And he's like, well, what are you here for? He's like, I'm here for the job. And so he just lays it all out on the guy again, the same thing he told him on the first day. And the guy's like, hey, man, everything's good. Like, we're not, like I said, we're not looking for anybody like that. He's like, well, I didn't know between, yesterday and today, whether somebody got let go or if something happened and maybe you thought it over more and maybe you need somebody. The guy's like, no, we're good. Comes back the next day. Wow. And the guy's like, he says, I'm Les Brown. I'm here for the job.
Yeah.
And the guy gets up and the guy's kind of like frustrated looking, and he goes, get me some coffee. He goes and gets him some coffee and sits down with him. And the guy's like, are you willing to kind of do anything and everything to have a job here? He's like, yes, sir. He's like, all right, when can you start? He's like, right now. He's like, okay, first job is you got to get everybody lunch today or whatever,
Yeah.
And he starts working there. Then he starts to like get around the room where they're doing their audio and doing all these things. And he's really paying attention to what everybody's doing. He's kind of just cleaning up. He's like an assistant. He's just hustling around, helping people with whatever they need. He's watching one day and he sees that this guy that's on the air is drinking alcohol. And he's like, oh shit. Like he's heard, he's been there long enough to where he knows you're not supposed to do that. So he gets a call from the boss, and the boss says, hey, so-and-so, they're not going to be able to finish their program today. We had an incident. And he saw what happened. Les Brown saw what happened. So he knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. So the boss says, hey, can you, call these other jockeys and see if they can come in, because it's an emergency. And he's like, yes, sir. He hangs up the phone, doesn't call anybody. Waits about 10 minutes and works up the courage and picks up the phone and says, sir, I called everybody and it doesn't look like anybody can do anything. And the boss is like, hey, man, he's like, you know how to work those buttons and stuff? You know what you're doing? You know what's going on? He goes, oh, yes, sir. Yeah, no problem. He's like, I can do that. So he like calls his parents and Les Brown calls his parents and says, hey, like, get ready. I'm going to be on the air. Mm-hmm. But the boss instructed him, like, don't say anything. Like, you're just playing records. That's it. Don't, not talking,
Yeah.
And so Les Brown gets in there and he like flips a switch for him to talk. And when he talks, he like says, this is Les Brown. He's got this whole like rap that he says. He's got this whole thing and he just rattles off all this like just cool disc jockey information, and he plays a song from Stevie Wonder, and kind of the rest is history, and he gets a job. But most people don't have that kind of fight in them unless they've been fought, or unless they've been neglected or abused, or even if it's like, I think it can be your own bullshit that you make up about yourself. It doesn't have to necessarily be from somebody else, because I think ourselves can be our worst enemy. You tell yourself you're dumb, you tell yourself you're fat, and you work through a process where you maybe someday overcome that. And I think that can be really powerful. But in Les Brown's situation, he grew up with some really crazy circumstances. I think he was like born on the floor of like an apartment or something like that. And then he was also abandoned when he was really young. And I think he lived homeless for a while. He like he just did whatever he could to get by, and he hung in there long enough. But it's kind of odd to meet somebody that's that hungry and that that fired up and excited about stuff to do things. But then you do have individuals like Gary V. Gary V grew up with a dad. His dad was really successful. That company made the wine company or the liquor store that his dad had or whatever it was. I can't really remember.
Discount Liquors.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did really well. But his dad seemed like a madman. You know, his dad didn't seem, you know, maybe I'm sure at many times he probably felt like his dad didn't even love him.
Mm.
But his dad took him to work. His dad showed him what it was like to make money. You know, he did all these things, and Gary V ended up turning into Gary V. And the dad wasn't abusive or anything crazy like that. He was just showed him tough love and showed him the value of hard work and what it can do for you.
And the mom gave him tons of love.
Yeah,
he always says that.
And the mom was always there. So, yeah, he's getting like a firsthand education on how to do business. Mm-hmm. You do it anyway, in every possible way that you can think of, and you just work your ass off. And then he had the love from the mother. So it doesn't always have to be a Les Brown story, but it is kind of rare to see someone act the way that Les Brown did in that story without getting really screwed over from the time you're young.
Mm.
Yeah, that interest level that you always talk about. It's so important. It led me to this podcast, oddly enough. Because, I mean, seriously, like, how was like our situation when I asked you, like, hey, I think I should be on board? I had zero experience, you know, as far as podcasting goes, but like I made sure that I had the experience once I, you know, or had the knowledge once we actually got here.
Wait, what is it exactly that you did? Like, so did you like mention to him like, hey, I think I can do this. Let's give it a shot. Like, how did that work?
Essentially, yeah. The podcast was going through some changes. We get more equipment and stuff. And I noticed that like, wow, like with the current manpower that the podcast has, like it just can't be done. Yeah. So I'm like, hey, I think I should be the one behind the computer. Mm-hmm. And then eventually the podcast went through more changes, and I'm like, you know, I kind of cornered him in his office, and I'm like, hey, dude, I'm your guy. Yeah. And he's like, sick. I don't have to find anybody. You got it. And that's when I was like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm doing. So I had to figure it out. But it was, you know, yeah, just that super high interest level where that's what like drove me at that time.
And it's something you really like getting better at.
Oh, dude, I love it.
Again, I get reminded of Ryan over here, Ryan Soper, who again didn't really have much media background, but it was something he was really interested in, and he would just get better and better, and videos would get better and better, and he just boom. Now I think he's the head of media. Like,
yeah, no, he's a savage,
right? So like, it's just like, I think you truly just got to really figure out what is that thing for you. It's like, okay, we're not all trying to reach Jordan levels of greatness, but if you truly like that thing, then you can put what you got to put into it to actually improve. I think that's also why I kind of don't, you know, I don't like the school system. I really don't, because you know, when you get to college, you're supposed to pick between these majors, and you're like, you're kind of interested in this, so let's go to this, or but you know, you're spending all this money to figure out potentially at the end of the day that's not something you were actually interested in, but now you're stuck. That's really tough. Yeah. Like, that's why I'm happy when I see like where your kid is going to be, you know, like the way you're probably going to raise him. You're going to probably raise him to try to figure out things he likes to do. And Jake and Acton Academy, like, these kids are able to actually foster the skill in something that they really do like, right? Not something that is set in front of them based off of a curriculum.
I'll tell you what people love is people love to see that you're hungry. So being hungry is I think it's a really critical, even though I mentioned the skill set factor, being hungry and showing that you're hungry, I think is massively important to anybody who's going to be a success, because even if it's just, you're just hungrier to, you know, acquire more knowledge, like that's a hunger in itself. You have like a thirst for it. You're like, man, I need to get more of that. Like, this is so good. I love learning this, and it, you know, sparks a lot of interest in you, get some different ideas going. But if you were to go, I think people are really scared to ever like really talk to their employers. You know, they're terrified. And a lot of times it's like kind of unfounded. Like, yeah, you could go to them and you could piss them off, but like you're going to piss them off for like a day, and it's really not going to be that big unless you're like really offensive with something. But it's actually really rare to have employees come to you with like a really comprehensive idea, you know, and if they did come to you with a comprehensive idea where it's very clear that the person's really hungry to excel, you'd be like, holy shit, man. I didn't know this guy was thinking about all this shit. Wow. This is awesome. What if we actually did that? What if we actually executed on that? Like, holy crap. Then it changes your perspective of the person and changes the value that the person may have previously had. If the idea is shit, you might just be like, man, that doesn't fit anything with what we're doing. I'm not really sure what they're talking about. And then that would be the end of it, though. Like, you wouldn't be like, how dare you, how dare you give me the suggestion on how to make my business better?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. Maybe there'd be some people that would do that. But look, man, if you lost that job because of that, then you probably shouldn't be there anyway. It's probably a shit job.
Yeah. JC asks a cool question, and it doesn't specify JC. It's either Jesus Christ, John Cena, or maybe someone else with those initials. He's just asking, like, Mark, how, in comparison to when you were in Santa Monica and broke, how do you stay hungry these days?
I think you always do it by continuing to level up. Like I mentioned with LeBron, it's about, he wanted to be the best high school player. Now he wants to, working on being the best NBA player, win the most championships and these kinds of things. For myself, it's just like, how do I continue to get better? Like, there's so many areas for me to get better in. People might think, oh, like, you seems like you're doing pretty good in a bunch of areas, but I'm working on my flexibility. I'm stretching every night. Like, I'm terrible with flexibility. There's a lot of areas where people do a lot better than I do. And I would like to excel at some of these things. I'd like to get better at some of these things. I would like to have the ability to explore more stuff and do more stuff. My powerlifting career cost me a lot of things. There's things like I've talked about it before, but like something like snowboarding or something like that. Not that I'm like dying to snowboard, but it would be kind of fun. At this point, it wouldn't make any sense for me to try it at the moment because I would really probably kill myself doing it. As I continue to get in a little bit better shape and continue to get lighter, continue to get leaner, maybe get more mobile. I'm, getting my blood work done all the time. And like, I just have new goals. I have new things that I'm setting, I have new things that I'm like working towards. If I think about like, even just like my blood work, like how different is that to like get a good blood work score, or have your blood work look good versus trying to, squat 1,000 pounds or whatever. So it's just really just a shift. And if you can imagine, like, you can just shift. I mean, you can go from like wanting to lift the heaviest weight to wanting to do the most amount of reps. Like, what if you just change your training one day? Like, the focus is all on singles, and then the focus just totally changes to, I'd love to see what I could do for 40 reps on bench, squat, and deadlift. And I'm going to work on that for a year. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot. Or body weight exercises, pull-ups, push-ups, things like I got to like 80 push-ups or 85 push-ups in a row at one point. It's like, those things that's kind of exciting, kind of see, where you can get to at some of these things. So for me, it's just, when I was in Santa Monica and broke, it was more, I didn't have time to think about like trying to be great at anything. It was more like survival, Yeah. Where's my next meal going to come from? I don't have any money in my account, and we're getting kicked out of our apartment, and, like, just things were just messy and cluttered. And it was just a thought process of like, I just need to make a couple bucks now so I can kind of figure things out. And then maybe someday I'll maybe be ahead enough to where I can kind of think about bigger things.
And then, like, as far as leveling up, you're probably not going to select, getting better at like World of Warcraft, right? Because you don't give a shit about that. Right. That wouldn't make any sense. So it's got to be something that you're still interested in, so that way you can still be fired up every day. Yeah,
and like, just making more money is interesting. Like, it's fun. It's awesome. It's fun to figure it out, and then try to create more opportunities for people and try to we're expanding this place all the time. We're getting working on getting a new studio. I don't know what's going to happen with any of that. I don't have any clue. I'm just, going for it. I'm definitely the kind of person, I said this many times before, and I said it to somebody the other day, and they were like, whoa. I believe a lot of times that you can't afford not to do stuff, So if you see something and it's expensive, something $600, and you're like, man, I don't know if I really have them. I think a lot of times, if that's something that you really want, I think you need to put your cards on the table and go for it. What I'd also say is, like, you need to be cautious. Like, if you're not doing your work, if you're not, if you're a lazy piece of shit, then you're going to have to wait until you have better discipline, so that what you got, you actually earned, and it's not that bad for you to maintain. It's not that hard for you to maintain. But I'm a big believer in, like, something is like risky, and you're like, ooh, like that's kind of a lot. Like, I don't know if I should do that. When that pops into my head, I'm like, yep, that's the path right there. That's the route that you need to go. And I heard a quote, I think it was yesterday, and it said, do not go where the path may lead, but go where there is no path and leave a trail. Like, I love that, like, just, it's easy to, like, all right, well, Nsima already walked through there. Andrew already walked through there. I see their footprints. They push some of the weeds back, and they push some of the branches back, and I can just, that's the easiest route, How often is the easiest route really ever the right route? Doesn't seem like it really, I mean, sometimes you got to be efficient. Sometimes you need that convenience, but, and again, that goes back to what we said from the very start, is that being a leader is very difficult. The first man through the wall gets bloody. You're the first person that invents stuff, the first person that creates stuff gets ripped off the most. A lot of times it's really bad too. Like, somebody will make something, and they'll have this great creative side to them. We don't see it as much anymore, because I think technology has allowed people to advertise in a similar way to the way that the big boys were doing it years ago. Like, you used to have to only advertise on TV, and like, no one had money for that. So now, if you were to make shoes, like, you're not going to compete with Nike, but you can make a really nice living for yourself, because how many people are in that? I mean, there's a lot of people in that game, but you get my point, is that you can do Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising for reasonable prices, and potentially be on your way, if that's something that you dig and something that you really like. Anyway, I'll shut the fuck up.
I was wondering where you're going with that. Oh man, yo, I do want to mention this though. We did mention Tiger Woods and the Tiger doc. If you guys haven't watched that, you really should. The first question I have is, what is the legality of this type of stuff? Because Tiger wasn't in that documentary, and I actually heard that he didn't like it. So how is it that, like, somebody can make a documentary about another individual, have all these people putting all this person's stuff out there, private, whatever, and they're just like, I don't like it. Like,
just whoever owns the rights to X, Y, and Z, that footage that they use or whatever. Because, like, you look at, I mean, I'm pretty sure R. Kelly didn't sign off on that Netflix show.
It's
and they used his music too.
Yeah, it's under a category of, like, fair use.
Yeah.
So
it's like YouTube.
As powerful as Tiger Woods was, he doesn't own the Masters broadcasts of NBC and all these people. It's some real fuckery going on. All these people are getting paid, and obviously, like, I mean, you could make an argument that he doesn't, like, need more money, but all these people are getting paid except for him, and they're piggybacking and making money off of his name, with all this footage that they're, like, people have to purchase that footage,
Yeah.
I don't 100% know, all the different rules. I'm sure there's some limitations on what they can do, and who knows, like, I don't know how you even find out, like, what the truth is. And I mean, his story was really, really, like, the fact that he got caught by media and not, like, private investigators or just somebody else, is I mean, it all happens for a reason. It's probably all for the better, but it's just like weird. Like there's a one scene in there where the media guy like follows him and they see that they're parked somewhere and he like picks up a condom and saves it. Like, it's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, that's not a police officer. That's not a detective. Like, that's just some random like media guy trying to make money off of this issue that Tiger Woods had at the time. It's just like kind of sickening in many ways.
It's really disgusting. And then the thing that really kind of shocked me was the portion that talked about how I guess his dad was in the military, but he worked with some military. Tiger, when he was a teenager, worked with some military psychoanalyst guy and taught himself how to like hypnotize himself, essentially how to get in the zone better. But they called it a form of hypnotism,
right?
And it reminded me of Tyson, how Customato hypnotized Tyson, and pretty much kind of turned him into a savage when it came to fighting. Like, kind of
an animal.
Yeah, it's like
some Winter Soldier shit.
Yeah. It's like, you know, in the doc, there's this lady that was like really close to Tiger, and she was like, yeah, he was like a totally different person on the golf course. He turned something on, and it's just like, wow, like that's pretty insane.
Pretty neat trick.
Yeah. But like, I think in essence,
and his dad would try to heckle him and all that stuff, so he can like channel in, and the dad would like walk by and like hit the ball, you know, and like just kind of knock him off track. I really love the documentary for one reason, was that I just didn't know that much about Tiger Woods previously. I knew a little bit, just, you know, what I heard in the news here and there. But what I didn't like about it was, in my opinion, for the most part, for most of the people that you see in the film, it's kind of a bunch of losers that lie in the wake of Tiger Woods' success.
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm just thinking like, oh, they could make a pretty good movie about me too. Like, I got a lot of losers in my history too that would love to come out of the woodwork and have a mouthpiece to speak, you know? Mm-hmm. And you could grab a hold of anybody famous, Michael Phelps, whatever. And they, you know, Tiger Woods did make some bad decisions and so forth, but they didn't really say, like, there wasn't like other golfers on there saying like, this is what made Tiger Woods so different. You know, I didn't really see much of that. You get the idea he's a prodigy. And what I did also like is I liked his dad in the film. I thought his dad may have been too forceful and a little crazy at some points, and he was trying to make like a little golfing robot, you know, that can kick the world in the ass. But I liked some of his attributes too. I think it seemed like he was a loving father. It seemed like he liked spending a lot of time with his kid. Mm-hmm. And just like anybody else, he had his flaws. There's one scene in there that I didn't like, that I do think captivated how his parents were, and that was when he got in trouble with
the girl
lying about when he came back from college. Yeah. And that scene is pretty bad, and that probably depicts the whole story, really, because later Tiger Woods ends up writing a letter to this girl and breaks up with her that way, mm-hmm. and never sees her again after he was dating her for like 3 years or some shit. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. And that girl still loves him. You can tell. They're like interviewing her, and she's still like, I mean, she's watching all the stuff he's doing currently and stuff. I mean, wouldn't you at some point just be like, fuck this? Yeah. I'm just not going to pay attention. I mean, he's hard not to pay attention to, but you could still go the other way. You know?
You could still turn the TV off.
Right.
The one dude that like, just you looked at him and you heard him talking, you're like, you're just a slimy fucker. Was you know who I'm talking about? The guy with the glasses from the National Enquirer or whatever. Oh yeah.
He was really weird. He was like laughing. He's like, oh, you know, we got the scoop on him, and like, this is the greatest news. It's like, what? Greatest news? What are you talking about? You're destroying these people's lives.
It is really crazy. Like it's that thing where when somebody is like at the pinnacle of whatever, it's like when they're on their way, everyone's rooting for them. When they've been there for a while, everyone wants them to lose. And then when they've lost, people want them to try and make it back in. You know, you're You're never just continuously rooting for that person who's here and who's doing that great thing for a while.
Right.
People want to see them fall.
That is weird. I was just going to say, like, is it just simply gossip and people love to see somebody fall from grace? Because, like, not only, I mean, as more news came out about Tiger Woods, people would pile on so heavy.
Dude.
Like, dude, his wife put I think it was like a shovel through the back of his car as he's trying to leave. And it's just like, dude, like, that's some personal shit. Like, everybody who's listening has probably had something worse, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, but yet, because he's top of the mountain, we want to see him fall all the way down.
Yeah.
Humans are funny.
One thing I thought was kind of cool is that his wife seems amazing. His ex-wife, seemed, she seems amazing. Like, the shit that she had to deal with, I don't really understand how the hell she ever made it through that. But she must have just said, hey, I got to get through all this bullshit for my kids. But she was amazing. She never went on to, like, write a book or anything like that, I don't think. And, like, that's some real class, because a lot of people do fall for that. And I think a lot of these people that are in this film, I think they got paid. They got paid to talk. I mean, the one dude is like, I'm not going to really say, and then he divulged all kinds of information. That was a really weird scene too, like where he's just like ratting them out and ratting out Tiger and ratting out, not necessarily Tiger, but ratting out Tiger's dad.
Oh, was it the dad's friend or whatever?
Yeah.
But the dude also was like kind of ratting himself out too.
Yeah,
He was like, I was doing the same thing
right.
and I was married. Like, he did say it,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was, and then he's like, sorry, champ. It was weird.
Well, and he's just like probably thinking, oh, I got nothing to lose because he's dead. And, you know, I can just picture him like getting halfway through that story. And then I can picture him like being like, nah, I'm good. And they're like, hey, listen, we're going to, you know, you're going to be compensated for this. And he'd be like, all right.
Yeah.
You know, and just keep blurting it out. But cool documentary. I think everyone should check it out. And the cool thing is Tiger Woods' story is like, he's in the middle of it. Because he's probably, what, 42, 44?
Yeah. And he's still golfing right now. I think actually he's getting another back surgery.
Yeah, another surgery, yeah.
That's the crazy thing to me, though, man. Like, that's what's so
you
cool
hear
about
that
him.
noise when he would swing? Sounded different than everybody else, right?
Yeah, it absolutely did.
There must have been a lot of torque on the lower back.
But the thing that's crazy to me is just like his ability to work past all the injuries he had, because there's that one, like
His
when he
knee
found
and
out
shit.
he had no ACL
Oh, yeah.
in his left knee. He didn't even know it. He was working through it. He was golfing with no ACL at the time. Like, look at a golf swing. Like, look at all that torque that goes through the knee. He was working through that, got surgery, comes back, wins some more Masters, gets multiple back surgeries, wins a Masters in 2019. It's like, what the hell?
Right.
I think that's one thing that kind of just shows how great of a competitor and an athlete he is, because he's always seems to find a way back from just injury that would probably just mess up most other athletes or make them quit. That's another attribute of his.
I think most athletes that I've seen over the years, and I've loved sports from the time I was a kid, I don't really know of another comeback story that's, I mean, Alex Smith comes to mind, the football player. But Alex Smith's stuff was, I realize there's a mental component too as well, because Alex Smith almost lost his leg and all kinds of stuff like that. But Alex Smith also isn't Tiger Woods. He's not one of the greatest of all time. Just, I don't really know if I've seen somebody come back from that. Like Tyson never really came back from his fight with Buster Douglas. He was actually never really even, I hate to say it because I'm such a huge Tyson fan, but he was never even really that good after that fight. And whereas he was dominant and he was one of the greatest fighters of all time before that fight, but that fight changed him forever, and he just didn't seem like he ever got back into his training regimen the same way and all that. For Tiger Woods to come back, these injuries and stuff, we've seen a lot of athletes do that. I haven't seen a lot of athletes, like no one, I'm drawing a blank. No one's coming to mind having such a public reckoning of your entire life.
Yeah.
Completely, it's his own doing. I understand it's his own doing. But your entire life being completely flipped upside down and then making a comeback. And I know he's going to make another one too, even after this back surgery. Like,
yeah,
that's pretty wild. And it seems like he's living a pretty damn good life right now. Seems like he's pretty happy.
Yeah. He's got his kids.
Yeah. And they, that this documentary didn't really show any of that transition. That'd actually be kind of nice to see, like what he's got going on now. But what a weird set of circumstances to not really be able to grow up to be yourself. You know, you're just always under the watchful eye of the media and all these people, and millions of people like worshipped him. And the interaction with his girlfriend, I think, was one of the coolest things. How she went bowling with him and stuff, and he loved it. And it was just like so different for him because he just didn't have normal experiences. Mm-hmm. And then when she came over to his house and saw like the shrine, like of all these, like he's internationally known and he's worshipped and he's got all these trophies. Like she had no idea of any of this. And she was like what? Like just not understand. And then when they would go out and he would get recognized, she was really flipping out. She's like, what the hell is going on here? Mm-hmm. Who am I with?
Yeah. I think the funny thing about it is when you watch it, like there are these little snippets where you hear what he's saying, like when he's being followed by the crowd or when he's holding up a trophy. There was one time when he was holding up a trophy and all these people around, he's like, what the fuck? Like you just hear him, like you hear the audio from his voice. And there's this other one where he's like with another golfer and he's like, you'll never get used to this. Like it's very abnormal. Like having just that hundreds of people just following you and praising you. It's all the time. Like, can't imagine that.
You could, and you could imagine how crazy it would be to have that going on around you. And then to like, occasionally he would like meet up with some of these other celebrities, and then he would be in a world where now everybody else gets it too. Like they understand. Like, so imagine feeling like you're misunderstood. Like no one gets this. Like I feel all these weird ways and no one will ever probably get this. And I got to live with this on my own. And then there's like, it's kind of a funny scene, but there's like Jordan's like partying and Charles Barkley. And when I'm watching, I'm like, oh shit, like Jordan's getting thrown under the bus here. Like, you know, they're talking about how they're hooking up with all these girls and stuff like that. And, but that must have felt probably super comfortable to him. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm saying is that must have been a really crazy thing to go from, that amount of pressure and all those things. And then to come into this where it's like these other guys kind of get it. They're part of it and they're, you know, doing things that probably aren't appropriate either, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the only other athlete that even has a chance to make it like a comeback story or had a chance, I should say, like Tiger would be Lance Armstrong, mm-hmm. You know, but even he, you know, when he finally admitted to everything, everyone kind of was like not back on board, but, you know, they were like, at least, you know, kind of celebrating the fact that he did apologize.
Yeah. I forgot all about that.
Yeah. But his was a little different because he was like suing people and like being a dick.
Yeah. His situation was pretty weird.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali's story is amazing. You know, like he really went through a lot when the country was,
that's right,
you know, very resistant to just all the stuff he was doing. Like he didn't go to war.
Dodging,
and like, yeah. But he gave up his belt. He did his time, and he came back. And when he came back, the American public actually really, they spent a ton of money on going to his events. And, you know, I don't think they had pay-per-views back then, but like a lot of people wanted to see him fight. They wanted to see him do well.
Yeah.
And a lot of things changed from that point on. But, you know, he had to be at it for fucking 20 years before he can get, you know, some people to appreciate what he was doing, really, you know?
Yeah. That's a guy that seemed to just like love what he did too. Like an athlete that like, yeah, there was he probably did have a chip on his shoulder, but he just seemed all the time when he was fighting to actually just enjoy it, to actually be happy when he was doing it. And that's like, I think that's kind of like the goal with whatever you're doing, to be happy as you're doing it, to actually have that kind of interest at it.
You bring up a great point. That would be somebody that you'd want to be around. Mm-hmm. You know, would you rather be around that guy, or would you rather be around the ferocious savage that like all he does is focus in on the sport, and that's like all they know, and they just know how to like destroy people in their given sport? It's cool, but it seemed like it'd be more fun to hang out with Muhammad Ali.
Absolutely.
Like that guy seemed like he can make anybody feel amazing, and he was so charismatic and had so much fucking energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he probably used like a lot of the pre-fight, you know, trash talking as his motivator too. You know, that's kind of like what McGregor used to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I who knows if he even cared or he was just trying to sell tickets, but it just seems like, if you're going to talk all this shit, like, you're going to have to back it up. Like, at that point, if you don't, you look like a chump.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I hope we get that Connor back. Makes it fun.
No, I like Monk Connor.
I definitely, I'm with you. I do like this version of Connor. It's just
Monk Connor can be great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him Monk Connor.
He
can be great.
Tom Brady heading into his 10th Super Bowl appearance.
That makes him the greatest. I feel like even if he doesn't win, that just makes him the greatest.
Well, I mean, if you like, again, I don't pay that much attention anymore, but like, if whatever the difference in teams, but Belichick,
right?
They who knows? Like, is it Belichick? Is it Tom Brady? I was like, well, he's going back to the Super Bowl, and someone else is not.
Right.
Boom.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, Tom Brady can be considered one of the greatest American athletes ever.
Right.
You'd have to put him in that category. It's hard because then you start getting into different sports, and it's like, who's to say what's tougher or what's harder? But you have to think, like, so many kids. I mean, there's literally areas in the United States where kids are born with a football in their hand. And there's somewhere in Ohio where they like put a football in their crib. And so a lot of people are gunning for that sport. And so you can make an argument and say, well, look, with millions upon millions, and now it's different because of all the head injuries and stuff, but with millions and millions of people gunning for that sport, it would make sense that sport would be one of the hardest. Again, part of the genius thing with Tiger Woods was him playing golf. His dad seemed like he loved golf. His dad actually looked like he was a badass golfer. That's an interesting thing to get your kid to play. And if you were thinking about your kid getting a scholarship or your kid doing something great in a particular sport, you would want to think of like something kind of unconventional that maybe not everybody does. Maybe it's, tennis, or maybe it's, whatever it might be. But yeah, Brady's got to be considered one of the greatest American athletes ever. Put him up there with Phelps and whomever else. Like Jordan.
Let me ask you guys this. With what Tom has done, like getting to that Super Bowl, if he wins, like that in and of itself is just like insane. But I feel like as far as an athlete, like he's ahead of maybe the greatness of Jordan. Like, am I wrong in that assessment?
He might be.
Because like how many Super Bowls has he won?
Well, he's won 6, I think.
6, right?
Damn. And this is his 10th one.
And I mean, okay, the Buccaneers, when's the last time they made a Super Bowl appearance? Do we know this?
2000 or so.
It would be I'm just going to guess 2002.
2002.
I'm going to look it up. See how close I was.
Yo, like this man.
But other than that, they're one of the worst franchises. They're one of the worst franchises in all of sports, not just football. They're one of the worst franchises in all of sports.
They used to be called the Succaneers.
This is like LeBron taking Cleveland and winning a championship. Oh man, I hope Tom Brady wins this.
2003. Fuck.
I really hope he wins this. Because I feel like that, like as an athlete, that is literally another level versus every other great athlete in history.
Yeah.
They're actually, I would think they're flip-flopped from the last time they were at the Super Bowl.
I do think that Tom Brady's appearance in comparison to Jordan's appearance would make people a little reluctant to say...
We can't call him an athlete.
Yeah.
Greatest sportsman? Like, what? I don't know. Yeah. But...
Damn, that 2003 Buccaneers team was incredible.
Tom Brady actually is like incredibly athletic. He's not very fast, but he can do all this shit to get the job done. He can move just enough. And then his intelligence on the field is just crazy. But he's scored a lot. He scores a lot of touchdowns himself because he's like amazing at just doing a quarterback sneak, which is a weird thing to be good at. But Tom Brady is also huge. I remember there was a game against the Jets years ago, and Tom Brady threw an interception, and the Jets guy got in Tom Brady's face, and Tom Brady just chucked the guy. And I was like, holy shit. Because the guy was like, I mean, Tom Brady's like 6'4" or 6'5".
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's big.
Oh, I didn't know.
He's probably
I didn't know he was that big.
Probably 220, 215. Like, he's got some size to him.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a mutant.
I didn't realize he was that big. Like that. Okay, that kind of reshapes things because when I see pictures of Tom Brady, he just looks like your typical 40-year-old dad.
Yeah,
but
and he's done a great job getting in better shape over the years too. Like there's that photo of him when he got drafted, and he just kind of looks like a mess. His shoulders are all forward, and he just has like zero muscle mass. I don't know what his training looks like, but he definitely looks like he's a lot leaner now. Looks like he's a lot better shape now, and looks like lifting and stuff like that has become a huge part of his life. But there's a lot of guys that are like Tom Brady, where they don't even really lift or pay that much attention to lifting until they're way down the road in their career. It's like, how do you, like Jordan? Jordan's another example. I don't think he really lifted much until he was on the Bulls for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
That's
it's like
crazy.
how do you become a pro athlete and not have resistance training be a big part of it?
It almost makes me a little bit sad because I'm almost like, what could you have done
playing
before?
Yeah.
Right. Like first off, yeah. But what if you did that a little bit earlier? What if you just started doing a little bit of resistance training a little bit earlier? What kind of crazy mutant would you be? Or some of those guys who just never did it throughout their whole career? Because there's some guys like that.
I do have to apologize to Jerry Rice. His name just popped in my head, and we can't forget about how ridiculously amazing he was too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he also came back to the Bay Area and played for the Raiders and still crushed it.
Yeah.
He's my favorite NFL player ever. He's fucking great.
Take us on out here, Andrew.
I will. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Shout out to everybody on the live stream. Sincerely appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. Please share this podcast with a friend if you guys had fun today. We would appreciate that as well. We've got some awesome content coming out on the newsletter, which is exclusive to newsletter subscribers. Check the links down in the description below for that to sign up today, because you don't want to miss out on another issue of that newsletter. And we are, let's see what's today. The day of this recording is January 27th. You have till the end of this month to take advantage of the Element Recharge Pack. It's a free 8 sample pack. It's just $5 shipping, and you guys get to try the most amazing electrolytes that we talk about on this podcast nearly every single day. Please follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And just in case you guys miss any of that, all links will be down in the description below, as well as the podcast show notes. And Nsima, where are you at?
Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. Nsima Inyang on Twitter. Mark.
At Mark Smelly Bell. I have something for you guys to ponder here at the end, and it doesn't not all that related to what we talked about today, but maybe it is. Something I just heard the other day. So this says, Goodhart's law is a measure. It says a measure ceases to become a good measure when it becomes the target. A measure ceases to become a good measure when it becomes the target. And I think that kind of falls in line with my try not type of stuff. When you start to have, when you are trying to lose weight and you're trying to do all these different things, and you have this, you're measuring your food, or you're measuring your body weight every day, and you become so obsessed with it, and that's the main thing that you're focused on. You're no longer focused on all the habits, and you're not focused on the habits will carry you everywhere you want to go.
Yeah.
So if you stick to the habits, you're going to get to where you're trying to go to. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.